Several members, including Mr. Singh, the leader of the opposition, Ms. Hazel Phua and Mr. Leong Man Wai, questioned the need to increase the GST given our strong fiscal position. I should remind members that we are in this strong fiscal position precisely because the government took the necessary steps early in this term to raise revenues. But if we were to rewind the clock and consider our situation, imagine what our situation was at the beginning of this decade. We were in the thick of battle, fighting COVID. I know it feels like a bad dream and a distant memory to all of us, but those were truly tough times. In 2020 alone, we had 5 budgets. In 2021, we had 3 budgets. We sought the President's approval 5 times to draw from past reserves. And this is 2020, 2021. We had no way of knowing when the pandemic would end, how the virus would mutate, how many more new waves of infection would we face, how many more restrictions we have to impose, and how much deeper a fiscal hole we would end up with. But we already knew for sure that spending needs would rise over the horizon. It was coming. Year after year, we could see it happening. Healthcare spending was rising, especially with our rapidly aging population. We looked at different ways to raise revenues, including through property and income taxes, but these moves were still not enough to cover the expected increase in expenditure, which was sure to happen. So what should we do to plug the funding gap? That's why we had to consider the GST increase. It was a difficult decision. It was a difficult choice. It's never easy to raise taxes, and certainly not a tax like the GST. What would have happened if we chose to avoid the GST increase because it is unpopular? Or if we did not enjoy the unexpected upsides in corporate income tax collections, which emerged only in the last 2 years? We would have ended financial year 2024 on a deficit. The projected balance in FY2025 would also have been a deficit. And that would have meant less funding for essential services, less support for our seniors, and fewer resources to invest in our future. Basically, Singapore and Singaporeans would have ended up in a much weaker position.
Sir, I appreciate your indulgence. Just a quick clarification. PM mentioned earlier on that had there not been a GST increase, we would have run a deficit over the past 2 years. I recall during our debate on the GST that the fiscal hole that would have been met by the GST increase would have been something in the order of 3.7 billion. I understand that last year we ran a very small surplus, but this year we appear to have run a significant surplus. So were GST receipts substantially larger than we expected this year?
Sir, I mentioned that we would have been in deficit FY24 and also 25 because of both GST, if we didn't do GST, and the unexpected upside in corporate income tax. So it's both factors, not just GST alone. As I said just in my budget statement, if we were to plan on previous assumptions for corporate income tax, it would be about 3+% of GDP. It's gone up to 4+% of GDP now. And when we plan for budget 2025, we have assumed a higher base. But without that unexpected increase on corporate income tax, without the GST rate increase, certainly FY25, based on whatever we are proposing to spend in the budget, would end up in the deficit.